What would you do if your fiance's ex showed up drunk at your door, picked a fight, and left your whole relationship in shambles? Let's get into it. At 32, Caitlin had a life she could be proud of. She had built a solid career in accounting, earning close to six figures, and was raising her 9-year-old son, Jay, when she met Jesse, an electrician who was doing well for himself and was just a great guy all around. It felt like a match made in heaven. After almost 2 years of dating, Jesse popped the question. Caitlin was excited. Early on, they had problems with her son's father, Will, pushing boundaries. It had been months since they had any issues with Will. So, Jesse believed it was all behind them. When it came time to plan their future together, Caitlin proposed a living arrangement. She wanted Jesse to move into her home so her son wouldn't have to switch schools. Jesse was hesitant. He had hoped they would both sell their homes and buy a new one together. But Caitlin insisted, saying that uprooting her son's life wasn't fair. Jesse finally agrees with one condition. He would rent out his home as an investment property instead of selling it outright. Caitlin was cool with it. Jesse moved in. 2 weeks after Jesse moved in, everything seemed perfect. They were adjusting well. Jesse was finally feeling settled into Caitlin's space. Then one late night, around midnight, and out of nowhere, bang, 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 Will's at the door, sloppy drunk, shouting, "I want to see my son." Jesse, annoyed, looking at Caitlin. "I thought this stopped." Caitlin caught off guard. "It did. This hasn't happened in months." As the banging grew louder, Jesse goes to the door with Caitlin on his heels. When Jesse opened the door, there stood Will, sloppy drunk and belligerent. He tried to force his way inside, still mumbling about seeing his son. Jesse blocked him and told him to leave before he called the police. Trying to defuse the situation, Caitlin told Jesse to stay out of it, let her handle Will, and go upstairs. Yeah, right. Jesse refused. As Jesse tried to talk Will down, Will became more aggressive, pushing against Jesse and trying to squeeze past him. Caitlin stepped between them, but in the commotion, she tripped and fell, twisting her ankle. When she cried out in pain, Will tried to help her up, but Jesse pushed him back, shouting, "Get away from her." When Jesse bent down to scoop Caitlin up into his arms, Will became angry, swung at Jesse, yelling, "She's mine. She'll always be mine." That was it. Jesse punched Will square in the jaw, knocking him out cold. Then he carried Caitlin over to the sofa, grabbed his phone, and called the police. Caitlin, still in pain, screamed at Jesse to hang up the phone. "Don't call the cops," she yelled. Jesse, shocked and angry, yelled back, "What do you mean, don't call the cops? Look at what just happened." While they argued, Will lay unconscious in the doorway. Caitlin insisted Jesse check on him to just make sure he's okay. But Jesse refused. "I'm not touching him. The police can deal with him." Well, when the police arrived, Caitlin pleaded with them not to arrest Will, saying he was just there to see his son. But when the officers discovered Will had driven drunk to her home, his car was still on the street, door wide open. They arrested him for DUI. Then Jesse added another twist. He told the officers he wanted to press charges for assault. Caitlin was upset, defended Will, and screamed at Jesse, "He didn't hit me. He was just trying to see his son. Don't do this, Jesse. He's had a rough time at work this week." That's when it all slipped. Jesse caught off guard. "What? How do you know he had a rough time at work?" Caitlin looked away, avoiding Jesse. Caitlin's words felt like a punch in the stomach to Jesse. After the police left with Will in custody, they got into a heated argument. Jesse demanded answers, and Caitlin finally admitted the truth. Will had never stopped showing up drunk late at night. She had just stopped telling Jesse about it. Worse, she confessed she had been talking to Will on the phone, taking his calls regularly, talking to him as if they were still friends. He's Jay's father, she explained. I don't want anything bad to happen to him. Jesse felt betrayed and didn't have any more fight in him at this time. You lied to me. You kept this from me for months. And tonight, you choose him over me. Caitlin tried to explain, insisting she had no feelings for Will and only wanted to protect Will for her son's sake. But Jesse couldn't let it go. How am I supposed to trust you after this? As Jesse packed a bag, Caitlin accused him of not being fully committed. You never sold your house. You were never all in. Jesse, shaking his head, replied, No, Caitlin, that has nothing to do with this. Stop trying to put blame on me for your mess. Jesse left that night and got a hotel room. The next day, they talked, and Caitlin begged for another chance. But Jesse couldn't get past the lies, the secrecy, and feeling that Caitlin would always put Will first when things got tough. He loved her, but love wasn't enough. By the end of the week, Jesse had completely moved out. Caitlin was left wondering if she had truly lost the man who could have been her forever. After a month apart, Caitlin was desperate to fix things. She missed Jesse and couldn't imagine her life without him. She pleaded with him to try couples therapy. Reluctantly, Jesse agreed. He loved Caitlin, but he made it clear he wasn't making any promises. But he was open to finding out if they could rebuild trust. Caitlin and Jesse showed up for their first session, sitting on opposite sides of the couch, tension thick in the air. It was clear they had a lot to unpack. But one thing was certain. If they were going to make it, if there was any hope for their relationship, they would have to face some hard truths. After 8 weeks of therapy, Jesse made the tough decision to end the relationship. Despite Caitlin's effort to work things out, he couldn't rebuild trust, knowing she would likely continue allowing Will to overstep boundaries. Unwilling to live in constant drama, he chose to protect his peace. Jesse packed up his life, broke all contact with Caitlin, and moved on. Caitlin's attachment to Will, her lack of boundaries, and excuses brought nothing but drama. Jesse chose self-respect and peace over chaos. And honestly, who could blame him? What would you do in this situation? Drop your thoughts in the chat.